Welcome to Empath Unplugged, a frequent release podcast of raw and philosophical reflections on well-being, love, and the meaning of life. Brought to you by your host, Esther Bertram, founder of The Insel, a rejuvenation island and community for empaths. Expect topics such as philosophy, psychology, art, culture, spirit, science, holistic health, and the occasional beach fire song to be part of your wonder ride to your oceanside escape. It's time to breathe in the salty air and bask in the soothing warm sun to relax, reflect, and vibe along with a fellow empath to rejuvenate. As most episodes refer to my 1-2-3 theory, I will provide an overview of it here for new listeners. Feel free to skip ahead 4 minutes if you know it already. In my 20s, I created 2 interlocking theories as I needed a framework for 3 reasons. 1, to know how to optimize my holistic well-being. 2, to have mutually beneficial relationships and letting go of toxic relationships and tangulations with narcissists. 3, to have lots of time and energy to give into my positive impact businesses and contribute to the world in a meaningful way. I've now spent 2 decades putting the theories into practice and they work, hence me now sharing them with the world. The 1-2-3 theory is a way to assess if you are optimized and able to give the most amount of love and energy to the world for the longest sustained time. The 5-finger theory explores each domain of holistic health and works in conjunction with the 1-2-3 theory and helps you calibrate each department. To have maximum output in your life, the 1-2-3 theory states you need to be in the order of the 1, 2, 3. 1 is yourself. 2 are your loved ones. 3 is the rest of the world or your contribution. When you nurture your holistic well-being first, 1, then you are better able to have mutually beneficial relationships, 2. And as a byproduct of this combination, you have so much excess energy to give, 3, your contribution to the world. This order of the 1-2-3 ensures maximum output in all departments for the longest duration. Some people are 3-2-1s or 3-1-2s, putting their cause, business, or mission before anything else. This isn't sustainable long-term if you value health and relationships. Many empaths, like I was in the past, have the default setting of being a 2-1-3, giving to others before themselves. But that blocks their flow into their 3. And as a consequence, they have little time and energy for their contribution. It's particularly dangerous to be a 2-1-3 when you are together with or around a narcissist, as they are double 1-2-3s or double 1-3-2s, where they put themselves first twice in an energy vamping way. When an empath has a 2 at the start, giving to others first, this fits like a jigsaw into the narcissist's double 1. This bond is notoriously risky for empaths and often hard to break. So I'm on a mission to help empaths become strong 1-2-3s, or what I like to call super empaths, so they can thrive in life, love, and work, and not get caught wasting years of their precious life in tangulations. This podcast, the empath community I have built, and my book, The 1-2-3 Theory, are all part of achieving this mission. To dive deeper into both theories, head over to the123theory.com, where you can read or listen to my book. Now that you have the basic gist of the 1-2-3 theory, let's begin this podcast. Hello, listeners. Welcome to podcast episode number 11. How can empaths amplify their life vibrancy? So this is an interesting topic, and it came from one of my listeners who asked this question, and they explained it that they feel like they are a 1-2-3, but they need to do more in each of those departments. And I saw it more like, and then I interpreted it as a kind of vibrancy. If you imagined a photo that you've taken and it has just normal coloring and you put a vibrancy filter on it, suddenly everything looks brighter and richer and more colorful and exciting. So I saw it as a bit like turning up this volume and Amplifying Your Life Vibrancy. So it's an episode that's more appropriate for people on the empath quest, the super empath quest, that have already converted from being a 213 or a 321 into a 123. So they might be towards the end of this empath quest, and they just are in that last part before they get to their beautiful garden of ultimate joy, where they just want to experience the depth and the height and the breadth of experience more than they are. And yeah, it's you can still get probably some value from this, even if you're still a 213, because it can give you some ideas towards where you're heading on your super empath quest. And I think no matter where you are in the process, vibrafying your life is a good thing to do, because life is short and we may as well make the most of it. So that's what today's topic is, and I even thought of a hashtag for it, which is hashtag Let's Vibrafy, so we can do it collectively. I like to continue turning up my vibrancy volume every day that I can, because I enjoy a colourful, rich life. Anyway, so let's have a look at why this could be important, or why anyone would want to do this. So when we are an empath on this quest to become a really high impact super empath, if you look at the 1-2-3 theory, we want to have that imbalance to start with, the 1, 2, and 3 in order. On the 1, to have the really best version of our 1, we want all departments where we have the 5-finger theory, mind, heart, body, soul, and purpose, to be absolutely optimized and on all cylinders firing. And that's all about our holistic health and getting into that state. Just as the second point, having mutually beneficial relationships, often that's a byproduct of having the 1 in a fully thriving state. And then ultimately we want to positively impact the world. And we can do that the most when we're in that order. But when you have been a 213 or a 321 and you've struggled to become a 123, because often it's a long and testing journey, and it can last a long time, many decades, or even, some people it might last 50 years, 60 years, 70 years, who knows? It can be a very long process to become a 123. But when you've got to that stage and you're finally working out how to be a 123, often there's something holding you back from really living to your highest potential, and your vibrancy volume knob could be stuck on a kind of lower setting. And it might be because there's multiple reasons why this can be. So maybe because your work is really demanding, and if you're still working after, maybe it doesn't matter what age you are, but maybe just the work that you do, you come home from work and you're just so exhausted from that work that you can't even think about turning up any volumes. You just want to turn all the volumes down and recuperate so you can go back to your demanding job. Or maybe other people need you all the time. And even if you're no longer a 213, so you're not putting their needs always before yourself, you still might have commitments to other people. And it's sometimes hard to break a pattern of this self-nurturing and giving even more to yourself when you are, so caught up giving your time and energy away. Maybe internally a reason could be that you just can't be bothered because you don't see the point, or it's just life is making you a bit apathetic to, go for anything, because there's so many reasons why you could end up in that state. And often it can be exhaustion. you've been burnt out and you actually just need to rest and recuperate for ages before. But maybe you've done all that. Maybe you've got through your rest period and you've been through your battle to become a 1, 2, 3, and you just feel like life is running and you want to get more out of it. You want that volume to be turned up, but you just don't know why or how to do that stage. And that's exactly what this episode is about. Personally, I ultimately think it's a shame if empaths have come so far down the quest and become a 1, 2, 3 to then not give themselves the depth and height of experience that they truly deserve. I feel like they're not living their best life or achieving the highest potential they can. And that's a real shame. I think if you don't turn the volume up, you're missing out on the richness of what life has to offer. And a lot of today's episode actually is going to, by mistake, it wasn't planned actually, to feed into the last episode. So probably good to listen to these two in sequence because we're going to talk a bit about this. It's about different parts of our brain and our mind and going to new places to break paradigms that we've been so accustomed to. And yeah, today's episode, its aim is to basically help you vibrafy your life. And instead of being a 1, 2, 3 that's just written down in a light pencil, we'll take out a big multicolored graffiti cans and spray it on a wall, a massive 1, 2, 3, and turn the volume up. Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about my experiences and things that have helped me in my life and how I've lived a vibrant life and continue to, and why. And I'm going to talk a lot about the importance of writing things down. So this has been something I've always done because I'm a songwriter. I started writing songs when I was 13. I've always had a blank book. I've always got multiple blank books actually for different things. But I use them for different things. I'll use them for creative expression, just getting song ideas out or planning. I do a lot of mind maps by hand and manifesting as well, and the intention setting. So as well as starting with intention from your mind, and like I did that episode about setting the archer bow and arrow on your target, often I write down. The next stage after that is writing things down. And as a testament to that working, I'll tell you a little story. So often people talk about doing, mood boards, dream boards, for manifesting. They really help. I've done a few of them in my life, but more words actually than pictures. And it was back in, when was that? My second year of university. So that must be 1998. And I was living with Charlie, my friend and guitarist. He's becoming a bit of a character in these podcasts. Sorry, Charlie. I hope it's all right. I don't mention many people's names, but I do mention Charlie's. Anyway, I don't think he'll mind. Hi, Charlie, if you ever listen to this. We were living in Mackay studying, and we were talking. I'd broken up from, that was not a relationship I wanted to be in. Charlie actually helped me get free from that. And then, I was single in that next year, and he asked me what kind of a guy I was looking for, and I said, okay, yeah, I'll tell you what kind of partner I want to have. And I went and wrote a full A4. I was 19 at the time, and 19 turning 20 because it was 98. So I wrote a full list, and I even remember, I haven't seen this paper, it must be somewhere in all my belongings somewhere, but I remember breaking it down into categories. And this is actually the beginnings of the 5-finger theory, because I remember breaking it down into mentally they're like this, physically like this, spiritually. So it was almost the mind, heart, body, soul, purpose. I can't remember. I really need to find it. But it was a full page, right? And it was pretty specific. And I even remember writing in there, they've got to be good at sports and, these are kind of things you look for when you're 19. And I wrote, and they ride a motorbike, and then in brackets, that's just a bonus. So it was like a little clause for the universe. Well, they don't really have to, but, it's a nice little plus. I guess because I was a motorbike rider and my male friends I grew up with were as well. So I thought, I could imagine my future partner also being a motorbike rider. Anyway, I wrote it all down. That was 1998. I finished that part of university, my second year. Then I moved down to Lismore and I did 2 more years of music. So I did 4 years altogether. I was no longer living with Charlie. Then I moved down to New South Wales from Queensland and was studying. And that's the year where I met my partner, who was going to be my partner for the next years. He was the one who helped me through my dream training, and very grounding and nurturing partner. And I remember at some point, because it was a year or 2 after I'd written that paper, I remember remembering about the paper and I was like, oh gosh, I've got to find that. Or maybe I don't remember. I don't know. I can't remember whether I tried to find it or I just stumbled across it. Whatever happened, I opened it and read through it, and I gave it to him. He read through it and he goes, that's me. And I said, yeah, I know. It's exactly you, because he was very holistically developed and mature and rounded and deep soul and nurturing and integrated, emotionally intelligent man. And he didn't ride a motorbike though, but all of the other things he was. And he was the one who said to me, that's me. And I said, yeah, no, it's me. So I rang up Charlie and said, Charlie, remember that bit of paper I wrote to you when you said, who's my ideal man? And I said, well, yeah, I'm with him, and I found him and manifested him through my intention writing. Anyway, I didn't think much of it. I mean, I did. I thought, well, it's yet another synchronicity or power of creation or whatever. It was the very beginning of me starting. That was before I learned about intention, but the start of my, manifesting, working with the power of thought. And life goes on, and 2 decades later, no, 1 decade later, early 30s, so just turned 20 years, so 10 or so years later is when I met my partner I've been with now for 12 years. And if I think about it, he's actually all of those things as well, but he also rides a motorbike. Not a dirt bike, which is what I probably would have imagined. He's more a road bike rider. I'm actually glad that he doesn't ride it at the moment, because now my mature head is more safety conscious. But sometimes manifesting can take decades, but it's interesting. I need to find that. Look, I'm in the middle of building a house at the moment. When I unpack everything, I'm going to track down that paper and the 1998 one, and I will put it online on my private diary. All patrons of my podcast and creative things get access to my private diary, so I'm actually going to find that paper and put it up there. I think that'll be a nice post. Anyway, that's a takeaway version of why it's important to write things down. And now I just want to talk a bit about, I guess, my philosophical view of why and how I live a vibrant life myself. And I'm a big dreamer. If you've listened to this podcast, you know I'm a lucid dreamer as well. And in my waking world, I'm a chaser of dreams. I like to dream big and go get them. So why do I do this? What is this about? apart from my DNA that I get from my father of just being a gung-ho actionist, get shit done person, it on a deeper level, it's two main things. The first thing is I'm really acutely aware of the miracle of existence in itself. And if I think about the mathematics of the following, what I'm going to say to you, that does my head in completely, the probability. So let's just go on a little math. I did this a bit on the synchronicity episode, but that was also a mind-boggling maths thing. I do like maths, but it sometimes does your head in even more if you put life things in that context. So if you think about the millions of sperm, I talked about that last episode actually. So the sperm going to the egg, already that is a big miracle that we exist because we were the fastest sperm to that egg, okay? Unless, of course, our soul drops in later. Who knows? It could work like that. But that's one factor. But if you think about the earth and what it takes for life to exist and develop, if you look at the billions of years, like we're going higher timelines here, the earth has needed to be in a stable position for life to develop enough to keep evolutionarily developing, unless you have a different belief system. I'm just looking scientifically at the moment, and from Darwin's kind of angle, that stability to keep it, not being blown out by a meteor or ice ages that just last too long or whatever. There's so many other probabilities, variables that could happen, but we've managed to be stable long enough. We managed also to be the exact distance from the sun. This really does my head in. So if I imagine my life as a human female in Queensland, Australia, in most of the year, I could sit around in my bikini. Not that I do that much anymore, but maybe when the sun comes back, it can be the perfect temperature on my skin with a slight breeze on the island. And sometimes it does my head in to think, if we were a tiniest bit further away, the earth from the sun, we'd be frozen. If we were a tiny bit closer, we'd just, all melt away. And then you can have these perfect evenings where the temperature, or where I happen to be, is so perfect for a human body. That precision of that temperature is so correct that you just think, what on earth? Okay, so already fastest sperm, longest earth stability to develop humans, perfect position. I mean, that plays into why the life developed, because it was the perfect temperatures as well. Already that the physical situation of the probability is fascinating. So even if I was just a zombie that didn't have any of my own thoughts, it's already pretty amazing. But as soon as you then go the next level and go, okay, got the perfect environment, then within that body, you have awareness of self and your place within the universe. You can sit there and you can look at the stars and have some kind of half idea about what a black hole is, and look in a microscope and have nanotechnology and all this crazy quantum stuff going on, and we don't understand all of it or even half of it, but purely the fact that we can acknowledge quite a bit of it, and we're aware of our own beingness within the environment. If you think too long and too hard about it, it's sometimes a bit dangerous. The rabbit holes it's literally mind-blowing. And it doesn't surprise me why religions exist, because I think, going back to this theory of control, I think people like to feel safe and have answers, and we feel some mental constructs give us explanations that make us feel at peace, some of us. But when you don't have those constructs and you're a free thinker and you just look at it and observe it and you're just aware of it, pretty mind-blowing. Anyway, that's one reason for me. So knowing that it's just such a miracle to have all of those probabilities lined up in such a way that I'm here right now talking into this microphone, making a podcast. Maybe somebody listens to it one day or not, but if you're listening to it and you exist, that's already an amazing thing. You exist. You were the fastest sperm on a planet that was stable for long enough, the perfect distance from the sun, listening to a podcast that's talking about the awareness of ourselves existing in the first place. It's all pretty fascinating and amazing. So just purely being aware of the miracle of existence makes me marvel at the mathematics and think, okay, if I don't do something with that, it's just, you have to do something with it. That brings me to my point number 2. I feel it's a responsibility to honor it, because if you don't honor it, you're not, anyway, all those poor slow sperms, you don't need to do it on their behalf. If they knew you were the fastest and then you came here and you just didn't even turn up your vibrancy knob and you just hung around, I don't know, not doing much, they'd all be thinking, like, why didn't I get the chance to be the fastest if they're just wasting their life away? So to honor them, it's another reason to do it. And I think this existential commitment, if I can call it that, is something I need to do, like in however that came about. So just say before, in my pre-life life, I don't know if you can call it life if it's pre-life, but just say I signed up for this existence before the ride happened. So I don't know, I'm up there in soul land and I've decided I want a human experience. I'm pretty damn sure I would have, if I was in the interview process with the person behind the desk choosing the souls who are going to go down to have a human experience, in that interview, I would have been pleading for them to give me the job, because I would have promised to give it everything, because I know myself well enough that I do what I say I'm going to do. I'm a person of my word. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. And even if I don't remember this happening, I know myself that if I was up there or down there or around there or in there, I don't know, it's a spaceless place. If I was at that place or at that dimension where you're planning your human experience, I know I would have said, don't worry, I'll give it everything I possibly can give it. And I need to do it just in case I said that, because if I probably would have said that if that scenario happened. So that's number 1. Second scenario, none of that happened. There is no pre-life. We just exist from the moment maybe the sperm made it to the egg. And when we die, that's it. Existence is over. But even if that's the version of reality, it's almost more important to honor the maths, just in a pure honoring of the equation and probability, because it's so strange that it's me being me than someone else existing in me being me. So I need to show myself that I deserve to be me. I know that might sound a little bit, this is why I live on an island. I think it's safe that I live on an island, because if I was to talk too much to people about this, they would think, I don't know, probably best keep her on the island. She can think like that over there. Anyway, so either way, I feel like it's just too much of a miracle. If I don't give everything I can to life, I feel like I'd just be wasting it. So regardless, I'm here, I exist, amazing miracle, I'm going to go for it. So this is my version of going for it. So I came from, if you've heard the podcast, I came from teenage parents, young hippies in the 70s. And I had a broken home between them, and they split when I was 2, lived in a government house in the city, and then an off-the-grid bush house, no money. We were in a bit of turbulence. Also, I had an amazing childhood in some ways that was very free, liberating, creative. I got to explore and be an adventure. So there was challenging parts and also amazing, wonderful parts. And yeah. That's where it began. Didn't have any money really, but I went to university anyway with some government support. Then I decided to travel the world, follow my dreams of being a musician, moved across with basically nothing, but made it happen over there, touring Europe, made lots of albums, spent 5 years writing a book about a vegan empath rock star, November Fox, started a guitar school, started media and marketing business. Came back to Australia 7 years ago, became the chief marketing officer of a music company for babies, Mini Maestros. I started a publishing house, started writing lots of children's books. I then started my own startup and formed a company, became the CEO of a vegan company with 20 people around the world. And that was pretty intense because it was a lot of people management. And that got too much, so I stopped that. Now I've started an empath community. I'm writing another book. I'm building a house. I'm now building a wellbeing event space and Airbnb. I'm doing this podcast. It's just, and I'm about to start a new adventure, wrangling this monster that is TikTok, which I've been resisting, but I'm actually excited about it now. And I know other people have done a lot more grand things with their lives than I have, but everything I've done has been on my terms, and it's been my version of vibrafying my life, of choosing creative and positive impact businesses to grow and develop, and just doing everything that I want to do. And honestly, I feel like I'm only just beginning, although I feel like I've done a lot. I feel like I'm just starting to start now, which is a strange feeling. I guess that's what happens when you're a morphing, ever evolving person. I think all of us are that. We continually try to evolve and develop. And when you are an evolver, it's like a birth and a rebirth and a birth and a rebirth over and over and over again, that growing this rich garden. Anyway, I've done this to honor the fact that I'm me here in this existence and smiling at the surrealness of this wonder ride. And yeah, I'm going to share with you now some practical applications for turning up and amplifying your vibrancy. So a lot of what I created in my life, all those projects that I just rattled off, I plan in mostly actually in a book that's not on the computer, although I work a lot on my computer. As I said about that, manifesting my partner, writing things down is so important. So once you've set intentions in your mind, actually verbalizing them and getting them out into words is the next step before the action and before allowing the universe to help you out as well. So there's my tips. I advise you to get, for a few reasons actually, an A4. Needs to be A4 because you need the space. Blank book, no lines, because lines are like, they're just keeping you too in, and you need to do drawing as well. So a blank book, A4. This is going to be a self-nourishment book and part of your super empath journey, because it will help your creativity, because you can doodle in there, you can plan in there, you can use it as your physical time for self-time. So I've talked a lot about when you do things in the physical world, it helps the internal process. So this is another way to externalize something you're committing to yourself. So you're giving yourself this time by working in your book. So if you don't yet have one of those books, you can go and get one and continue the podcast after that. Otherwise, just you could do the next stage with a A4 piece of paper and then just stick it in your book later. So what we can do is to take our thoughts into words to then become actions. We're going to grow a bit of your 5-finger garden. So start by just putting your hand, your non-writing hand. So for me, I'm right-handed, so I'd put my left hand down on the page and I'm going to trace around my hand with your fingers. Okay, so you trace it and you've got a lovely, spread your fingers apart so you've got a nice bit of space between your fingers. And the first step to vibrifying your life is looking at the 5 departments. So in each finger, starting from left to right, write these words. So in the little pinky finger, write mind. Next finger, heart. Middle finger, soul. Next finger, I made a mistake, body. So little finger, mind. Second finger, heart. Third finger, body. Fourth finger, soul. Fifth, purpose. Okay? So you need to first look at these areas. You might instinctively straight away know which area you need to improve to vibrify your life. Maybe you want to improve and turn up the volume of all of them. But the key to holistic well-being for number 1 in the 1, 2, 3 theory is looking at these departments and making sure they all have love, attention, and a high level of health. So mentally, how are you feeling? Emotionally, physically, just go through them in your head and know which area you want to improve over this next phase, because this is the planning stage. And then you come into the practice. So I'm going to go through, you might already just have one department you want to work on, but I will go through some ideas for the 5 different places. So the key point is just think of one thing in one of the departments that you want to work on and just write that thing near the finger. So it doesn't have to be a huge commitment. It can be just one thing you're going to do this week that you're going to give time and attention to that will help turn the volume up on that department. And it's about making that commitment and making that practice, making that space for that to begin the process. So this will start you being able to notice how important it is to give that space, and you don't have to give much time to it. If you need to read a book about the power of little increments, there's a really good book called The Compound Effect, and it shows how over time, even when you just do a little bit of something over a longer period, what a great development it can have. So it doesn't matter, it could be the smallest thing. Any increase, even 1% increase, can have a massive effect over a big time. So that's what you need to do. But we'll go through each of the departments and have a little look. So as I talked about in the last episode, mental space is, to me, it's one of the key places. And actually, I learned a bit more this week about the default mode network, or people call it DMN. And it's the part of the brain that has four main areas that it takes care of, and one's about self-reflection, the part where we think about ourselves and our emotional states and our personality traits and that reflection on who we are. The second is social evaluations. So that's empathy and morality and all social concepts. The fourth is memories, the past, and listening to our inner narrator. I talked about that in the last episode, that storyteller that puts context over everything and creates our narrative. That also lives in the default mode network. And also envisioning the future. So when we do meditation or even dream of the future and daydream, that's in the default mode network. And when we talked last week about the highways, this default mode network is that area where you're so used to traveling down those paths. And if you listen to the last episode, by the way, I hope you have been trying some new things in your life to break out of your normal highways and going into some scenic routes. And the trouble is when we stay on the regular highways in the default mode network, there can be too much rumination about our lives and ourselves. And it's a safe and known path it can become habitual, and it can also be where stress lives. So if you often think about the same things over, or you analyze the same emotional, social evaluations, and you live in this part of your brain, it can be stress and anxiety inducing. And it's a very good thing to do is to try to sometimes just alleviate that a little bit, get a little bit out and reduce our default mode network being activated all the time. And I actually watched this documentary last night on ABC iPlayer. It's about drugs. I know last episode I said the fast way to access different places, you can do it with drugs, but I don't recommend doing it. And I still don't, especially if they're not tested and not done with therapy and not given by a professional, because it's more risky for what you're taking. But it's fascinating that some psilocybin and certain hallucinogenic drugs can be used in therapy for people that have had depression or PTSD, because it helps them. And they showed it on the brain, all the different areas of the brain that are suddenly lit up by certain trips that people can go on in an environment of therapy. So it has to be, the environment plays a big part. And these people were able to just do that once, basically like what we talked about on the last episode, going outside of the highways, going on those scenic routes, and the connectivity of all of the areas of the brain, and were able to basically not be stuck in their default mode network anymore. And I think it's really important to do things in our life consciously as much as possible to not just get stuck there, because there's a lot of things we can be in our own way when we're stuck there. So a big thing we can do is our meditation work. So mindfulness meditation, because it can stop us wandering into those stressful areas. So I know a lot of well-being podcasts and articles will advise mindfulness and meditation, but it's for a good reason. Like there's apps as well, like Headspace app you can get if you just want to do a few minutes here and there. But it really does help. So to prove the point, we're actually going to do a very short one right this minute, because mental space is often what's behind any of the other departments anyway. So we're just going to do a very short one. It won't be long. You just need to, if you're driving or moving or responsible for somebody else right now, don't do it now, obviously. But if you've got time for yourself and can just sit quietly for 1 minute and go on this journey, then I invite you to do so. So you just need to sit up straight. If it helps, cross your legs. Put your hands in a balanced position on your knees. Just really relax every part of your body. And I just want you to concentrate on your breathing for a moment. Shut your eyes. And you're just going to watch your breath in and out as it breathes naturally. And I'll stop talking in a minute as well to give you the space to do this, but I'll just set you up for it first. Thoughts that come into your head as you watch your breathing, so you're just watching it gently like a tide in and out. As thoughts come in, just see them like clouds in your blue sky of your mind. Your blue sky is like the open mindfulness space. Just let the clouds go past. Allow them to be there, but don't struggle them. Just return back to your breath and try to allow that blue sky to go into an expansive mode so that the clouds, which are the thoughts, don't need to float in there as much. You just allow the blueness to expand. If a thought comes in, see it like a cloud. It's okay. You can just let it be. Let it float away. And watch your breath. And then we'll come back after that. So I'm going to just put on some nice music for 1 minute only, and then we'll come back after that. Okay, you can gradually open your eyes. Yeah, I did it too. So I already feel like just creating that little window of space in our hectic world can do wonders. Like even if it's just a minute, it doesn't mean that it's only the value of 1 minute. It can have a much bigger, higher value for helping you out of your default mode network and letting you have that little shift that you might need. And okay, so if we look at the next finger, emotions. Another meditation you can do actually is loving kindness meditation, because it decreases any negative emotions and feelings related to yourself. And that's the first step towards having better relationships with other people, because you need to have the good relationship with yourself as number one, because it's mirrored externally. And a good thing to do is to actually meditate on the 5 different departments. So you've got the 5 fingers there already. So you can have a meditation where you go into a space and say positive affirmations in each of those departments about yourself. So I am mentally able to focus and I'm sharp in whatever it is you want to do. I am open and grateful for my life and my relationships. You know what I mean? So you can go through the fingers and make up affirmations that you want to have as a loving kindness towards yourself. And that's a beautiful thing you can do to just help turn the volume up of that. So looking at the body, if there's things that just jump out to you that you want to improve, if that's the area you're suffering with the most or you're not vibrant enough in, It could be anything about the body, like your food, what you're eating. It can be even your physical environment. So maybe your house is just a mess and you just, that's the one area you keep failing in. You can go and watch some shows about how to clean your house or YouTube's. They're pretty inspiring for that kind of thing. Maybe you're not going to the gym enough. You could write down one little thing you're going to do. You might download a sit-up app and do 5 minutes a day, every day this week, and you've just begun that process. From there, it might grow. It could be sex. You haven't had sex for a million years and you know that life is short, and well, there's plenty of ways to start that going up. I'm sure there's lots of apps out there that everyone knows about. I've never been on one because I've started my relationship before all of those apps kind of came into being, but there are plenty of them out there I've heard from my friends. And basically just use this 5-finger map you've got in your new diary as a way to goal set and set that intention in a written form, because that will really help it start happening. If you look at spirit or soul, it could be that you're not nourishing that for yourself enough, or you're not giving enough time to your connection with the universe. So all kinds of creative things you could be doing, like I mentioned in an earlier one, the artist's way is a really good framework if you want to get in your creative flow. Maybe you need to spend more time in your spiritual world, connecting with nature or the universe. Just make a commitment what you'll do this week to increase that. What makes you feel happy on a soul level? What can you do to make sure you do more of that this week? On a work level, now we're on purpose. What can you do this week towards your goal for your absolute ideal reality where your skills and your passions are utilized? What are your skills and passions? Do you even know that? So you could start a process about that on a different page in your book. I do a lot of work, ongoing work on all kinds of self-development from a work perspective in my book, because I like refining and developing and pivoting and changing these kind of things to always get closer and closer towards my ideal. Anyway, so that's basically it in the first version. Now, that's the 5-finger theory. When you're looking at the 1, 2, 3 theory that you want to vibrify, number 1 is holistic well-being. So that's what we just did there with the 5-finger theory. Number 2 is your mutually beneficial relationships. So if you want to amplify them and bring more to your number 2, the best first thing you can do is amplify your 1, because the more you are a vibrant 1, the more you will attract other vibrant 2s, and they will be mutually beneficial. So if you want to turn up the volume of your mutually beneficial relationships, in the heart section of your 5-finger theory, write down some things you will commit for yourself this week. It might be writing a letter every Friday night to a different friend, calling different family members once a week, going to new meetup groups that you've never been to, and just making any kind of commitment you know will develop that area. And the number 3 in the 1, 2, 3 theory, purpose, we covered that a little bit in the contribution, but when you look at the best outcome for your skills and passions, you can also use the 5-finger theory to assess that. So you can look at your work and ask yourself, how does it mentally, emotionally, physically, soul level, and use your skills and passions satisfy you? So you can actually use the 5-finger theory to refine that job. If you're doing a job that you're just sitting behind a computer all the time, it might be really physically bad for you. So is there a way you can still do that job when you're not behind the computer all the time? Maybe you're doing a job that's mentally so boring, but it makes you feel happy on the other levels. It's a really good way just to quickly calibrate what you're doing. And if you want to learn more about that, you can, my 123 theory book, which is coming out on the 1st of the 2nd, 23, 1223, dives more into this. The other thing you can do daily is meditation. So if you go over to theinzel.com, there's a free meditation that helps if anybody wants to do more daily intentions and getting that headspace. So that's about it for how you can start turning up the volume. I think that if we remember that life is short, if you imagine yourself at the end of your life, and if someone was to paint you as a painting, or you were going to paint yourself, do you want to be painted as this bland kind of washed out colors thing, creation, or do you want to be painted as this vibrant, colorful, rich, amazing rainbow experience? Because if you want that, you 100% can do it easily. It just takes that intention and then the commitment to putting in a bit of effort towards it, and over the time, a bit more effort, and you'll feel better from it anyway. So that'll give you more energy to put in even more effort. But you can start small, because any increment helps a massive way. And if you want to be a super empath, I think that this part actually is vital to it. Amplifying your vibrancy is one of the last steps actually to getting to your perfect garden. So if you're still a 213 or a 321, I advise first focus on becoming a 123. So cleaning up your tangulations you're in, working out how to give yourself holistic well-being time out, just becoming a 123. If you're further down the quest, you're a 123, but you're feeling a bit dull, try some of the things I've mentioned today. And it's almost like that part of the quest, you're getting some secret jewels that are your power weapons. They almost can make you glow in the dark, or some power like that, because it's the last bit of this quest. If you manage to turn the volume up, it's almost like the garden will just form around you. It's not like you even get there in a linear way. It's like once you get to that point and you've turned up your vibrancy and you're in a really strong 123 and all your cylinders are firing, it's almost like you don't have to go anywhere, because the world around you bends to you as a mirror and you're there. So it's very exciting. And I urge you to turn up the vibrancy volume, because it's a vibrant 123 super empath is the kind of empath who can, morph realities and help shape a better tomorrow for everyone. So, it's exciting. And I look forward to seeing all these vibrant empaths of the world leading a heart-led society. And a big shout out today to the listener who asked this question. I hope this has helped in some way, and I look forward to hearing about your vibrification process. Thank you very much for asking the question and giving me something to cover in today's episode. And I'll do another shout out actually to Wendy. She wrote me a lovely message about how she was moved by my first episode, and when I sang the song Free, I did a live version of it, and apparently it brought her to tears, because she's felt she's exactly at that place. And it was one of those synchronicity. I don't know if she hasn't heard the synchronicity episode yet, but it sounded like one of those synchronicities that it all fits together, and you're getting a little clue from the universe that you're on path. And even her just hearing that felt for her that it just confirmed she's where she needs to be. And it was really lovely to hear that. And thank you for telling me that, Wendy. It made my day. It makes me feel like I'm making these for a reason. And yeah, it was really beautiful. And yeah, I'll just let everyone know I've made a new link page. It's called links.estherbertram.com. Or if you go to empathunplugged.com, it takes you straight there. Basically, that's where you can sign up to become a patron if you want to and support these podcasts being made. When you're a patron at any of the levels, they start at $5 a month. You get access to a private community chat and my private online diary where I'll put, more deep and meaningful things like I talked about. Once I find that letter of manifestation for my ideal partner, when I unpack my boxes, I'm going to put it on there. And you can also ask for podcast episode topics and things like that. And I also am now selling commissions of if you want a children's book written about your child or a painting or even a song written, you can order that now through those links. I'm starting to bring my creative life more into my everyday life. So that's why I've set that up because I've never really done any of my art for money. I just did it because I felt like it's what I needed to, but I want to morph more towards doing my creative things more full-time. So that's why I've set up these options for people to become patrons or commission me to create something. So if you're interested, just head over to empathunplugged.com. And I'm going to finish today with song time. And it's going to be dedicated to last week's podcast and this week's one because it's called Highways. And I've been talking about these highways of the brain. And the lyrics sing highways in motion. So potentially motion into other scenic routes. And it also talks about putting the fear aside, not being afraid of these motions. And it talks about letting the past provide. So when you're in the default mode, that's also where you think about the past and the future. So when you letting the past provide the source or the roots for this new evolution of yourself, the future will then decide. That's the lyrics of the song, actually. The future will decide. And I think if you do go beyond the highways and enjoy this wonder ride journey of life and the absolute true miracle that it is, you can honor it and embrace it. Basically, you just ride this wonder ride. And the lyrics of the song is all about these highways in motion and riding. So I thought it's the perfect song for these topics. So this is from the album I did with Charlie and it's called The Tea House and it's called Highways from, 10 years ago, I think we wrote it. 12 now. Yeah, this is Highways.
No more need to hide. Ride, looking starry-eyed, flowing with the tide. Travel far and wide. Ride. Travel far and wide. Ride. Highways in motion. Highways devotion. future will decide. Right, right, right. The future will decide. Right, right, right. Highways in motion. Highways devotion. So fast the time, it seems too slow. So fast a kiss, it ever blows. So fast a path that no one knows. Which way, which way, which way home? Highways in motion. Put the fear aside. Right, right, right. Highways dim, let the past provide. Future will decide. Right, right, right. Highways in motion. Put the fear aside. Right, right, right. Take it from the gaze dim, let the past provide. Future will decide. Right, right, right.
That was Highways from the Tea House album. If you'd like to hear more music, you can head over to my links page. Everything's there now. So just go to empathunplugged.com or links.estherbertram.com. They both lead to the same place. And that's it for today's episode. Hashtag Let's Vibrafy. I look forward to hearing positive stories about everyone who listens to this and wants to turn up their volume and amplify their vibrancy, doing so and having great results. Then I'll know this time I've invested was worth it. So thanks again for listening, everybody, and thanks for the feedback I received from some of you this week. It's been lovely, and I'm enjoying this process a lot, so I hope you are too. Until next time, bye. Today's episode is sponsored by StepByStepGuitarLessons.com, your go-to course if you're an absolute beginner and want to learn guitar. I have taught hundreds of students with my fast track method from ages 6 to 80. With lifetime access, these self-paced online lessons mean you can learn in the comfort of your own home. The bite-sized lessons are very easy to follow, and the platform keeps track of your progress. This course is tailored for absolute newbies and is much more effective than random YouTube videos or learning from your Uncle Steve, who may not have the patience required to teach at a true beginner's pace. You are guaranteed to get fast results, and if you don't like the learning style, there is a 30-day no questions asked money-back guarantee. Plus, it only costs the price of 2 in-person lessons, but you get over 50. There are several studies that prove that learning a musical instrument is the only activity to light up almost all areas of the brain at once. Making music has the power to soothe your soul, heal your body, and bring you true joy. Not to mention, if you've always wanted to be a rock star, learning guitar is your ticket to do so. So if you're ready to learn or want to gift it to a friend, head over to stepbystepguitarlessons.com and enroll today. You've been listening to Empath Unplugged, a frequent release podcast of raw and philosophical reflections on well-being, love, and the meaning of life. Brought to you by your host, Esther Bertram, founder of The Insel, a rejuvenation island and community for empaths. For more information or to join the community, head over to theinsel.com, theinsel.com. If you have found value from this episode and would like to become a patron to support future episodes and gain access to exclusive content only available to patrons, head over to empathunplugged.com and sign up to be part of the inner circle. Thank you for listening. Have a beautiful and rejuvenating week. Till next time, bye-bye.